Hi, my name is Gary Sermon, and this is my oral reflective presentation for the module Positions and Practice. I received my first camera, a Fujifilm HS20, for my 14th birthday. I would head out into Leeds city centre and practice my photographic skills on my friend who I would take countless photographs of, which I would then edit using Photoshop. Here you can see 3 photographs that have been edited in different ways. These photographs show a different time that I was exploring and testing out different editing skills to make changes to a photo. Although these are not the type of edits I would typically do in my work today, simply because my style has changed, they did help broaden my mind on the different ways that you can manipulate a photograph using Photoshop. However, I feel that some of my work that I produce today is a reflection from these images. I still enjoy photographing in black and white and capturing candid shots. I attended Leeds City College to study Level 3 photography. I came across photographer Tim Hetherington, someone who would inspire my work and push me to further my career with a university degree. Hetherington's work was bold, uncomfortable, raw and real. Hetherington attended the School for the Blind in Sierra Leone between 2001 and 2002, where many of the children had lost their eyesight due to war and conflict. Hetherington spent much of his time here documenting the growth and the survival of these young people, which showed that even though that many of these children had faced pain and suffering, they had come out of the other side stronger, and therefore showing the world that how the worst things in life can happen, you can still move forward and live a fulfilling life. With Hetherington's work, it wasn't the war side that interested me, but more the way he could capture a person, group, or scene in general. Hetherington would go to the world's worst war zones and capture a story. Hetherington's work made me think more about my own work and how I would let what he had captured in the world influence how I would use my skill to capture photographs. This photograph shows a sleeping soldier from Hetherington's time in Afghanistan. Hetherington was joined alongside writer Sebastian Junger, where they headed into one of the most dangerous Afghan postings during the time of the war upon the Taliban. This is a perfect example of how Hetherington captured images that were so strong and reflective on his trip without having to fully focus on the war with guns and killing and hurt. Here, Hetherington decided to photograph the soldiers while they were asleep to show them at a time where they were at their most vulnerable. As a storyteller and a documentary photographer, Hetherington could have just headed straight into photographing the war and the hurt that the soldiers were facing, but instead he decided to also focus on the side that the outside world doesn't get to see or hear about, as it is forgotten that soldiers are just normal vulnerable people too. Hetherington also shot a lot of his work on a medium format Rolleiflex, which sparked my interest in analogue photography. The reason behind my inspiration from Tim Hetherington is not that I wanted to head out into war and photograph impact, but I wanted to use my skill to capture important life events that would make people feel something, that would make them look deeper into a photograph and allow for it to tell a story. Now, it may not be the story that I would personally tell, but I want to capture an image that gets people thinking. During my time at college, I started to find an interest in street photography, especially black and white. At the time, my main inspiration for my work was Tim Hetherington, so I decided to take on some of the skills I had seen in his work and apply them to my own. I wanted to capture people as they were in the moment. I started with trying to add colour into black and white photographs to pinpoint the focus area that I wanted to draw people into. As you can see from the top 2 photographs, I've highlighted the signboards that people are holding, as this was to pinpoint the photograph I wanted people to focus on, whereas the bottom 2 photographs are more street photography style images. I personally don't feel that these bottom 2 photos have a story to them. Although I do like them aesthetically, I believe it shows people going about their day-to-day life, and if you really wanted to, you could come up with something, but they're not impactful or meaningful compared to the top 2 images, where you can clearly see that this is a protest surrounding the NHS and the importance of it. Here, I feel, are images that are meaningful. So from this, I learned that it is okay to take photos for aesthetic reasons, but finding a story out in the world that can impact your photo and make people want to know more about that event is something that I wanted to fulfil with my work. In university, this is where I started to focus more on photojournalism, with my main project focusing in on a side to New York that tourists don't usually see. I named this project On the Street. This was a street photography project where I travelled to New York and captured normal people in a city that was famous for its tourist attractions, living their daily lives. The first image here shows a homeless man and his dog. They were named Billy and Bailey. Billy was living on the streets of New York as he had lost his job and his home. The purpose of this image was to show people that in a city people travel to fulfill their dreams, others are fighting to receive food and water every day. You can see here how Bailey the dog, is looking at Billy for food. Although you can't see Billy's eyes, you can see how his body is turned towards the dog. Now, I can tell you that Billy shares his meal with his dog, but there are so many directions you can take a photo like this, and that is the impact I wanted to create, to get people thinking. In this next image that I have captured, you can see a man pushing his cart through Times Square. Look closer and you can see two NYPD officers looking at the man. From this image you can see that the officers at the front of the car are smiling. You may even say that he is laughing. What does this image make you think? What is the officer laughing at? Is he looking down on the man pushing the cart? Is it because he is in the warmth of his car and the man is out in the cold? Or does he just know the man on the street, or is he simply smiling at him? This is the purpose of the photo, again, to get you thinking, to create a story from an image without knowing the context. I feel that these two examples of images from my most recent project show my growth as a photographer from my previous images that I've taken in my younger days. I have researched more into my project and focused more on why I am taking the images and who of, rather than just random general photos in hope that they will make a story. I also feel that my framing and juxtaposition have improved. I feel that to further improve from this, I would like to test myself in getting more personal with my photographs, taking inspiration from Hetherington and framing my subjects closer. My photographic journey has evolved over the years. Although I feel like my style of shooting has remained the same, I have extremely improved on the way I capture, such as speaking to people before capturing the photo rather than taking a street photography approach and photographing from afar. I want to further advance my photography into documentary and journalism. I feel that I have pinpointed my photographic style, but I still feel I could better capture an image to tell a story. Sometimes having a story in your head before you head out to photograph can be helpful, as at times I have headed out without the idea in my head and built my work along the way. This can be a blessing and a curse, as sometimes the best photographs are the ones that you didn't expect to take. I will further my photographic development by identifying a story that I wish to research and develop my photographic skills around, which will allow me to create a body of work that is surrounded by a specific topic or event. Thank you for viewing my presentation.